Hey, and welcome back to the Michael Cohen Show, where we again are on our journey to 250,000 subscribers. So thank you all who have subscribed, and make sure that you share, that you like, that you subscribe. Just help us to grow this, and truly appreciate it. So the other day, I was on my Political Beatdown podcast with Ben Meiselas. It's the Midas Touch Network. And Ben and I were discussing Trump's recent interview with Elon Musk on X, formerly Twitter. And there were a bunch of observations that were made. And I think that it's extremely important that you understand the reason why. Knowing Trump better than anybody else as I do, I think it's really important that you understand exactly what was going on here, what we talk about on Political Beatdown. So, for example, between Elon Musk has 100 million followers on X, and Donald Trump has 60, 70 million people on his account. Between the two of them, about 170 million followers, and less than 3 million people tuned in to listen to this horse shit. It's exactly why you're seeing fewer and fewer people at the rallies. We've heard it all. We've heard the whining. We've heard the bitching and the moaning. We've heard the groaning. People are walking out of these rallies because there's nothing new here. You're not learning anything new. You're not learning anything about policy. You're listening to a guy gripe and bitch and moan. They stole the election from us, quite frankly. It's really wrong that they did it, and they're going to do it again. And then everybody saw that Elon Musk, this tech guru genius that he is, they couldn't even get the system not to crash. It was you couldn't hear, it just kept falling apart, and then people had to log back on. Some people couldn't log on at all. It was a technological disaster for a guy who is so tech savvy. So not only did less people watch, but how about the thing that everybody's noticing, the slurring of Donald's speech, as if he got bitten by a bee and his tongue swelled 4 times the size of, what it normally is, that it couldn't even fit in his mouth. The S's, the L's were impossible for him to get out. And it's something that a lot of people are right now noticing and trying to understand. Me personally, I think the guy probably had some work done in his mouth, and he probably just came from the dentist and his mouth was all Novocained up, because that's what it sounded like. At least it did to me. And if you're not going to turn around and wonder about that, how about their conversation, Trump and Elon Musk's, about climate change? Really? He's denying climate change? In fact, he's trying to rewrite what science has now shown us, with people who are scientists in this oceanography, in the field of oceanography, that the water table is not just heating up, but it is also rising at an alarming rate. There is projections that Miami, Florida will be underwater in under 15 years. I think now it's closer to 10 years. But he says it's only rising, that it's all a lie. It's only rising by 1/100th or 1/10th, whatever he said, of an inch every 400 years. So watch this clip. It is really extremely important, and I think it tells a lot, and it's exactly the reason why I keep saying, for the future of this country, for the future of the earth, vote Harris Walz 2024.
What'd you make of that bizarre interview last night with Elon Musk? They say 1 billion people listen to it. By the way, I hope 1 billion people listen to it, but clearly 1 billion people didn't listen to it. I mean, Donald Trump, had you ever noticed this about him, Michael Cohen? Does he have fake teeth? I mean, what's going on with this? This blurring was really, really bad. What was going on there?
By the way, he does not have fake teeth. He may have an implant. He certainly has laminates, but he does not have fake teeth. And he doesn't have dentures that were falling out. When he's on the phone, he was probably, for all eating. And he's tired. That's the thing that I'm noticing a lot about Trump right now. And it's not something that I saw often. he's very tired. He looks tired. He looks like he has no energy, right? Talk about low energy. The guy looks like he's completely run out of it. And that's why, he's just, and that's exactly what he was. He's sitting there. He's actually bored. He's bored to be on that interview. And I think that they were thinking, meaning he and Elon Musk, that there were going to be many, many more people on the site listening to whatever you want to call this, an interview. I didn't know that Elon Musk, amongst everything else that he does, that all of a sudden now he's a journalist and he is interviewing Donald Trump. When they saw that there was only like 3 million people on it, well, that's a lot of people. It's not what they thought it was going to be. They thought it was going to be like 100 million people or something between the two of them. And let me tell you why. Let me tell you why I think that the number was as low as it was. First, there's actually more than one reason. I think there's two. The first is no one gives a shit, right? We're just all tired of listening to the same whining, bitching, belly aching, crying by Donald about how the election was stolen and, how they're doing it to him again. And the fact that now Joe Biden's not the candidate for the presidency, but Kamala is, and that all of a sudden now, she shouldn't be allowed to run and everything about her is fake, that she is a chameleon, right? You may have seen that one. It gets to a point where it's just tiring. And second, I think people realized that this was not going to be an interview that you were going to learn anything new. It was just going to be Elon Musk playing to his own ego, talking to Donald, and Donald thinking that now he's got Elon Musk on his side, who would be able to do things for him on Twitter, as well as, don't forget, Trump is excited to get back that 45 million a month that Elon pledged, which he's not going to give him. That's really the two reasons I believe. It just wasn't really worth any. It was not just. It really just wasn't worth your time.
Well, I think we actually have some video that hasn't been seen before from that interview. Let's take a look at it. Jeremy.
I may be a craven little coward, but I'm a greedy craven little coward. I just gotta have that 5 G's.
Sorry, this was really the clip. This was really the clip right here where he was saying that he thought that the Time magazine cover with Kamala Harris looked like Melania, and then he called Kamala Camellia or something, or Camille. Here, play this clip.
She's terrible, but she's getting a free ride. I saw a picture of her on Time magazine today. She looks like the most beautiful actress ever to live. It was a drawing, and actually, she looked very much like our great first lady, Melania. She didn't look like Camilla. That's right. But of course, she's a beautiful woman, so we'll leave it at that, right?
What do you make of that, Cohen?
Well, first of all, he's just being himself. He's being an asshole. First of all, he knows her name is Kamala, not Camilla. Second of all, I don't think the picture looks anything like Melania, but what he's trying to do there is he's trying to, again, he's trying to brag about the fact that his wife, Melania, is a model, and that it basically, in his mind, that it should have been Melania on Time magazine, gracing the front cover, and anything that he can do to disparage. And I do just want to go back to something, Ben, that we were talking about earlier on. He really doesn't sound right. Can we play that one more time? And not for the content that he's saying, but just the sound. Something really sounds wrong. maybe he had food in his mouth, or he's not feeling well. I don't know, but I've never heard Donald sound this way. Maybe I've heard him sound this way once or twice when he was sick, like with a cold or something. But this one is really interesting. Can we play that again, Jeremy?
She's terrible, but she's getting a free ride. I saw a picture of her on Time Magazine today. She looks like the most beautiful actress ever to live. It was a drawing, and actually, she looked very much like our great First Lady, Melania. She didn't look like Camilla. That's right. But of course, she's a beautiful woman, so we'll leave it at that, right?
He had some work done on his teeth, that maybe he had Novocaine in his mouth or something like that, because you hear this, and that's not how he said. It's not dentures. Let me be very clear about it. You know, Daffy Duck is one of my favorite all time. It is not dentures. I don't care how many people want to turn around and talk about this slurring of his speech. Donald does not have dentures. I can tell you that for a fact. It's almost though as if, like I said, that he maybe had some work done on his mouth or something like that. Something's there. All right. And it's not being drugged up either. I'm telling you, it's almost like if he had work done on his mouth and he couldn't really find his tongue because the slurring and the lisping that is going on there. It's I don't know. It's not something I have ever heard Donald sound like. It's very odd. And
Here he talks about abolishing the Department of Education. Let's listen to some of these clips. Let's play this one next, Jeremy.
And what I'm going to do, one of the first acts, and this is where I need an Elon Musk. I need somebody that has a lot of strength and courage and smarts. I want to close up Department of Education.
Again, it's almost as if maybe he burnt his tongue on a slice of pizza or something. Elon Musk, and it's true. It sounds like Daffy Duck. There's something going on, and it has to do with his mouth. It has nothing to do with dentures. There's definitely something there. Maybe he had some, again, work done on his teeth or something like that. But whatever the hell it is, something does not sound right.
Here he says that he's okay with climate change and rising sea levels because he thinks that will give him more oceanfront property. Let's play this clip.
You know, the biggest threat is not global warming, where the ocean's going to rise 1/8 of an inch over the next 400 years. And you'll have more oceanfront property, right? The biggest threat is not that. The biggest threat is nuclear warming.
He's such an idiot. You know, we've been listening to Von Schitzenpants for how many years now as a climate change denier. Here's the difference, right? And it makes perfect sense that he wants to do away with the Department of Education. In that way, you know, everybody in the country will be as stupid and as uneducated as he is. It's a fucking joke, to be honest with you. Here's the thing. We have scientists, oceanographers, and scientists that are plotting out what is going on with the rise in the sea level. And it is not 1/10 of an inch over a period of 400 years. The ocean level is not just warming up at an alarming rate because of the massive heat that the Earth is experiencing, but the water table is rising. And it's rising to a point where these scientists have shown year after year after year, and they have all this equipment in the ocean and around the coastline of this country, especially down there by Florida, where they turn around and they say that all the beachfront property that you see will be underwater in under 15 years, more between 10 to 15, like we'll say 12 years. That's a short period of time. You have all these people spending God knows how much money on these homes, and the water level is rising to a point that these scientists, not Von Schitzenpants will tell you how smart he is because 50 years ago, he had an uncle that worked at MIT, right? I mean, great, fantastic, right? They are the top scientists in this area, and they are telling us that the water table is rising right now at a level that is going to basically bury Miami and sink it. Sink it. So why he wants to now turn around and why he wants to deny it again, why he wants to turn around and say that it's 1/10 of an inch over 400 years, that is absolutely inaccurate. He knows it's inaccurate, but then again, he says it because he thinks it's a popularist view.
And it's, I mean, not that this is the point, but that's actually less beachfront property. When the water goes over the beach, you don't have the beach. So it just,
it'll just become different beachfront property. I mean, eventually, because what happens is as the tides come in, it brings the dirt, the sand with it. It will ultimately make additional beach type areas. But what will happen, right? So what will happen is it will sink the areas that are closest onto the beach, and then it will push everything up a half a mile, whatever the distance might be. But it's the point I'm trying to make is he knows that climate change is real. He does. We've had the conversation, in his office. He knows that it is. He just doesn't care. That's the difference. He doesn't care. And because if he turned around and he said that climate change is real and that the ocean table is rising, as is the temperature of the water, this would not bode well for when he turns around and he says, drill, drill, drill. Right? Or, let's just get rid of the EPA simply because, it interferes with our ability to manufacture. And therefore, we're not being competitive in the world market. That's what Trump is saying. But unfortunately, it's really stupid. And things like this should be why people do not vote for somebody like a Donald Trump. Hey, everyone. First of all, thanks for watching. I mean, we're going to be posting daily episodes with reactions and talking about politics. We'll be talking about everything, in fact. So please like and subscribe. Join us on this journey.